Hello everyone, good evening, and I welcome you all to Civil's Mentorship. So as you all are aware of that we have started our previous year question series with world history. So today we are going to break down a UPSC mains question step by step. So if you were just starting your answer writing preparation, this video is for you. So we will take up this particular question. American Revolution was an economic revolt against mercantilism. Substantiate. So this particular question came in the year 2013 and it's a 10 marker question. So with the help of this particular question, I will show you exactly how to approach a question using a systematic 6-step framework. But before you begin, or else before we begin, I want one thing from you all. So whenever you are watching this particular video, don't watch it in a passive manner. I want you all to grab a pen and paper, note down whatever we will be discussing today. Don't just watch this video, take notes out of it, because with the help of this particular framework only, answer writing is nothing but you need to think about it. So with the help of this particular framework, you can answer all the questions. So don't just watch this video, take notes out of it. These notes will help you write better answers in your exam. So I hope you got your pen and paper. So let's dive in. So what are the steps? As I mentioned that every question we will be decoding it in a 6-step framework. So what are the steps? Now this is the first step, that is read the question carefully, or rather we can say that read the question twice. Now what does this means? Let me show you. Now read the question twice. What does this means? First things first, never jump into writing immediately. As I mentioned that read the question twice. Now what does this means? In the first reading, what you need to do? Now in the first reading, just get the gist of the question. Just you get the gist of the question. What does this means? Just understand what the question is broadly about. So let's talk about this particular question. So what the question is saying? Now American Revolution was an economic revolt against mercantilism. So first of all, on the first reading, you need to get the gist of the question. So for this particular question, what is the gist of it? Now it's about the cause. It is stating about the cause. It's about the cause behind the American Revolution. So simple enough. Okay. So that means on the first reading, you just understood the pattern or the gist of the particular question. Now you are coming to the second reading. So second reading is, what does the second reading means? Now in the second reading, what you need to do? Find the focus. Now what does this means? So when you are reading the question second time, in the first time when you read the question, what you did? You took the gist of the question. But when you are reading it again, this time identify what exactly is being asked. For this particular question, that American Revolution was an economic revolt against mercantilism. So what does this means? In this particular question, they are basically asking you to prove that it's the economic factors and not the political or ideological factors. That means it's not about the political or ideological factors, but it's more about the economic factors which led to the American Revolution. So in this particular question, you need to prove it, that it's the economic factors and not the political or ideological factors that were the main reason, especially due to mercantilist policies. I hope you understood that during the first time only, when you see the question, don't just start writing the answer. So your first task is to read the question twice. While you are reading the question on the first instance, just get the gist of the question. That means in this particular example, what does the meaning of gist of the question means? You need to understand the what does the gist of the question. So in this case, the question is asking about the cause behind the American Revolution. And in the second reading, so while you were reading the question for the second time, you need to identify the exact question. What exactly they have asked for. In this particular question, what they have asked for, they have said that you need to prove that it's the economic factors which led to the revolt or which led to the revolt or which led to American Revolution, and it's not the political or ideological factors based on the mercantilist policies. So you need to write your answer based on the mercantilist policies. So this is all about step 1. So I hope you understood this particular thing. So in this particular question, your answer must justify that economics was the driving force. So that's your focus. Okay, I hope you are writing down all these particular things, whatever we are discussing over here. So this was all about the step 1. Now come to the step 2. So what does step 2 means? Step 2 is you need to identify the directive word. Now what does this means? Look at this particular question over here. In this particular question, what is the directive word over here? Now, the directive word is substantiate. Now, what does this substantiate means? Substantiate means you need to prove it with facts, logic, and examples. So, in this particular question, what is the directive word? Now, directive word is substantive. And what does the word substantive means? Now, substantive means you need to prove certain thing or you need to prove something with facts, logic, and examples. So, in this particular question, what you need to prove? You need to prove that the cause behind American Revolution is the economic revolt and not the political or ideological factors. So, I hope you understood this step 2. So, in this step 2, your answer must justify that the revolution was mainly economic in nature. You are not discussing or presenting balanced views because over here you are not doing that. You are directly proving it that it's because of the economic reasons that the revolt had occurred. So, I hope you understood this particular logic, this particular step. So what does the word substantive means? Substantive means you need to provide your evidence, logic, and examples. So this was all about step 2. Now coming to step 3. So what is step 3? Step 3 is you need to identify the theme keywords. Now what does this means? Theme keywords means based on which you will write your answer. So in this particular question, what are the theme keywords? So you need to identify the theme keywords. That is, these are the concepts you need to define or explain in your answer. So in this particular case, what are the theme keywords? Now there are 3 things: American Revolution, economic revolt, and mercantilism. So your answer should be based around these 3 concepts. So these are your content anchors. Now your answers must revolve around these 3 themes only. So make sure you have written these keywords clearly. So this is all about the step 3, where you need to first in the step 2 you have identified the directive word, and in the step 3 you identified the theme keywords, that is the theme based on which you will write your answer. So this was all about step 3. Now come to step 4. So what is step 4? Step 4 is decode hidden dimensions. Like if there is there any hidden dimensions are there which is not directly they have asked for, but they are, means the question demands those dimensions as well. Now this particular step is very much critical. Why so? Because UPSC doesn't always spell out what they want. You have to decode it. So this particular question has 2 hidden dimensions. Now what are those? So note down these particular dimensions carefully. First dimension is the causal dimension and the second one is evaluative dimension. Now, what does the word or what does the term causal dimension means? This means in this particular question, they are asking for the causes behind the event. Now see, what was the question? Now the question is, American Revolution was an economic revolt against mercantilism. That means they are asking for the causes behind this revolt. So dimension is the causal dimension is where they are asking for the causes behind the revolt or behind the event. So what is evaluative dimension? Evaluative dimension is you need to assess different causes or factors and show which one was stronger or more significant. So in this particular question, we have two hidden dimensions. One was causal dimension and the second one is evaluative dimension, where you need to assess the different causes or factors and show which one was stronger or more significant. So I hope you understood about this particular step 4. So even though the question focuses on economic factors, over here the question clearly focuses on the economic revolt. So even though the question focuses on the economic factors, you must acknowledge other dimensions also briefly to show the analytical maturity. It's not that your answer should be entirely based on economic revolt. Now, if you can prove in your answer that why the economic factors were the main causes rather than the political or the ideological factors, then the examiner will have a thought that no, the aspirant or you are aware of all the dimensions. Now, this was all about step 4. Now comes the most important step, that is structuring your answer. So what does this mean? So now, as I mentioned, that this one is the big one. Based on this particular thing only, your entire marks you will get. So a good answer has 3 parts. As we all know that a good answer has 3 parts. Now what are those? One is introduction. We have. The next one we have is body. And the next one we have body, and the third one we have conclusion. So a good answer should have all these 3 parts. Now what are those? Now introduction, body and conclusion. So, but within each part also, there are specific dimensions you need to cover. Like suppose for example, in a body, you can write your answer. That means in the body part, you can write your answer in multiple dimensions. So that means within each part also there are specific dimensions which you need to cover. So write everything down carefully. You can use the same structure for any question. Like whatever we are discussing now, this same format we can use in each and every answer. Because all the answers will be based on this structure only. Now let's go into each and everything. Like suppose we will be starting with the introduction. So what is the major purpose of introduction? Now the purpose of the introduction is to just set the tone, define the context or show conceptual clarity. Now what does this mean? This means in the introduction, you are simply setting up the context based on which you will write your answer. That's it. So that is the task of the introduction. Say for example, you can start your answer with any of these 4 dimensions. Now what are those dimensions? Now let's discuss each one of them. First is the definition or concept dimension. So you can start your answer with this particular dimension also. Now what does this means? Like for example, in this question only, that is whatever question we are discussing now. So in this particular question, you can begin your answer as a part of introduction by defining the key idea or concept in the question. So not only for this particular answer, you can write any answer based on this particular thing as an introduction, where you are defining the key idea, or the concept in the question that has been asked for. So this is one way of introducing. Say for example, in this particular question only, you can start your answer by defining that what is mercantilism or what is meant by an economic revolt. So we in this way also you can start your answer. Now say for example, you can start writing your answer in this format also, like by defining what is mercantilism. What is mercantilism? Now, mercantilism was a European economic policy where colonies existed solely to serve the economic interests of the mother country through trade monopolies and resource extraction. So you can write the introduction or you can start the answer with this particular basic introduction as well. So this was all about the first dimension, that is the definition or concept dimension. Now let's move on to the next dimension, which is context or background dimension. Like suppose in this particular question only, you can start writing your answer by giving certain background of the event. That is also one way of start introducing your answer. You can give the historical or thematic setting. So that is all about this one. That is the context or background dimension, where you are introducing your answer by giving the historical or thematic setting. Say for example, in this question only, you can introduce your answer by giving the relationship or giving the colonial relationship between Britain and America in the 18th century. So in this way also you can introduce your answer. Say for example, you can write your introduction in this form as well. Like we can introduce by saying this thing that by the mid 1700, American colonies were economically vibrant but politically subordinate to Britain, which imposed restrictive trade policies. So that means you are setting up the background. So this is one way of introducing your answer, not only to this particular question, but in any of the question, you can introduce your answer in this way also, where you are setting up the background of that particular event. So this is the second way of introducing your answer. Now the third way of introducing your answer is the thesis or core idea dimension. Now what does this means? It means you are clearly in the introduction only, you are clearly stating your stand or the main argument. For example, in this question, they have clearly mentioned, right, that American Revolution, American Revolution was they clearly mentioned that American Revolution was an economic revolt against mercantilism. That means they are saying this. So you can start your answer by with this argument also, that you are giving your viewpoint, whether you are standing against it or you are supporting the argument. So this is all about the thematic, the thesis or the core idea dimension, where you are clearly stating your stand or the main argument. Say for example, in this question only, you can introduce your answer by giving the primary cause of the American Revolution. That you can state that the primary cause of the American Revolution was economic exploitation. That means from the question, whatever the question has been asked, based on that question only you are starting your answer. So this is also another way of starting your answer. For example, you can start your answer in this way also, that the American Revolution was fundamentally rooted in economic exploitation under British mercantilism, which stifled colonial prosperity and autonomy. So with this introduction, you are stating that you are agreeing or you are supporting whatever the argument that has been put forward in the question. So this is another way of introducing your answer. Now the fourth way of introducing your answer is the linkage or the relevance dimension. Now what does this means? You are connecting that particular event with a broader global trends or similar movements. So that is another way of introducing your answer, where you are not focusing only on that particular event only. As a part of your introduction, you are conveying or you are connecting with the global trends. So this is all about the fourth type of how you can introduce your answer, where you can briefly connect it with broader global trends or similar movements. Say for example, in this question only, we can write like this, that introduce our answer like this, that like other colonial revolts in Latin America and Asia, economic grievances often preceded political awakening. So these are the four types how you can introduce your answer. So your introduction should not be more than 4 to 5 sentences. So in these 4 to 5 sentences, covering these four dimensions in any of the dimensions you can choose, you can have a powerful introduction. So I request you all that you note down all these four dimensions clearly. Now coming to the main part, that is the body. Now, what does this means, or what is the significance of this one? The significance is very simple, that your 80% of the marks that you will get, it is based on the body part only. So, in this particular question, what you can write in the body part, that you because you need to prove that argument, right, with evidences, logic, facts, examples. So the purpose over here is to substantiate or prove and analyze, but from multiple angles, not only from one dimension you need to cover. Your body should also be divided into multiple dimensions. So this is where you need detailed notes. The body, like suppose in this case, I have given example of around 8 dimensions. I have given example means 8 dimensions. So it's not that you need to write all the 8 dimensions in your answer. Based on the word limit and the marks, you can write how many dimensions you can. So the body has 8 dimensions. So this is what separates an average answer from high scoring ones. Because the average answer may not be, they may not segregate the body into multiple dimensions. So it's always appreciated to divide the body into multiple dimensions also. So let's start the body part. So first of all, what is the first dimension? The first dimension is the policy dimension. Now, what does this means? You can start with the nature of British mercantilism, like what was it and what did it aim to achieve. So this is all about the policy dimensions. Say for example, you can write like this, that you can also write this part, this dimension in this way also, that British mercantilism aimed to maximize wealth by controlling the colonial trade, ensuring that raw materials flowed to Britain and finished goods were sold back to colonies at inflated prices. So in this way also you can introduce or you can write about that particular dimension. Now next comes the mechanism dimension. Now what does this means? In this particular dimension, you can explain that how this policy worked in real practice, like the trade restrictions, taxes, monopolies, the navigation acts, all those things. For example, you in this particular dimension, you can mention about these things. About the navigation acts, you can mention like the navigation acts of 1651 to 1673 mandated that colonial goods be shipped only on British vessels and traded exclusively with Britain. Now, this eliminated competitive markets. So this you can write in this particular dimension, the mechanism dimension. Also, you can mention about these acts as well, like the Sugar Act of 1764, the Stamp Act of 1765, the Tea Act of 1773. So these dimensions also you can answer, you can put it over there. Now, third part is the impact dimension. Now, what does this mean? Third part is the impact dimension. Impact dimension. Now, what does this mean? You need to show the consequences, like the consequences that how this particular revolt affected different sections means how the means whatever the policies adopted by the British or whatever the policies that were there, how it affected the different sections like the merchants, farmers, artisans, etc. So so you can diversify your answer. So like the economic hardships, whatever happened, the resentment, we can mention those things as well. So in this impact dimensions, we can mention all these things. Say for next comes the reaction dimension. Now what does this means? Now reaction dimension is obviously something is going against us. The system is not the system is against us. So that means I need to revolt or I need to react. So this is all about the reaction dimension. So reaction dimension is nothing but the colonial response, whatever responses they have given, like boycotts, protests, Boston Tea Party, Continental Congress, and so on. So all these things we can mention under the reaction dimension. Now, how we can mention, say for example, we can mention like this, that colonists organized boycotts, formed the committees of correspondence, staged the Boston Tea Party. The first Continental Congress emerged as a unified residence. So like this we can mention under this particular dimension. Now next comes the comparative dimension. Now what does this means? Comparative dimension means you are comparing. So as I mentioned initially that they have given that it's the economic factor because of which the revolt had occurred. But why to mention only the economic factors? We can show them that how the economic factors were the main reason as compared to the ideological or the political factors. So these things we can mention it over here, where it's not about the economic factors, means though we had political and ideological factors as well, but the economic factor was the major thing. So this is the evaluation part. That means you are evaluating the economic factor with the other factors. Next comes the ideological dimensions. Now what does this means? So ideological dimension means you are bringing in the ideologies. That means you are bringing in the ideas like enlightenment, liberty, property rights. So you are showing that the economic freedom and political liberty were interconnected. Say for example, we can give over here the John Locke's ideas on property rights, that no taxation without representation. So these things we can mention under this particular dimension. Next comes the event-based dimension. So event-based dimension is that what are the events that exactly had occurred during that time. So over here we need to substantiate our analysis with examples, dates and acts like Sugar Act, Stamp Act, Tea Act, Continental Congress. So these are the different types of dimensions that we can present in our answer. And the last form is the broader or long-term impact dimension. That means how that particular economic roots shaped later developments. So we can highlight that aspect as well, where we can mention about those economic factors which had shaped the later developments. So like for example, the rise of capitalism, economic self-reliance, free trade deals in America. So those things we can mention over here. So I hope you understood that how to think about the various dimensions for a particular answer. It's not that since they have mentioned about the economic factors, we will stick with that only. We need to diversify our answer. So we need to think it in multiple angles. So I hope you have noted down all the points. So in this way only you need to think for other answers as well. And finally, we have the conclusion. So what is the purpose of the conclusion? Conclusion is the only purpose is to summarize and balance and show maturity of understanding. So what does this mean? That means whatever dimensions or whatever analysis you need to give, you have given it in the body part of your answer. Now you are concluding it. So whatever you have given, you are concluding it. So over here also we can conclude our answer in multiple dimensions. Okay. It's not that we need to give all the dimensions in one answer, but just I am showing you that how you can conclude your answers in various dimensions. You can use any one of them based on the question. Like suppose the first one is the synthesis or inference dimension. Now, what does this mean? That means you are drawing the final conclusion from the analysis. So, you have given your analysis, and based on that analysis, now you are drawing the final conclusion. So, that means this is the final or the inference dimension. For example, like the economic resentment against mercantilism laid the foundation of the revolution. So you are concluding it. So this is one way how you can conclude your answer. The second way is the balance dimension. Now, what does this mean? That this means you are acknowledging the other factors as well. Say, for example, in this case, you are acknowledging that it's not only the economic factors, we had other factors also, like the political factors, the ideological factors. But you are not undermining the main argument. So that means you are acknowledging all the factors, but you are focusing mainly on the main argument as well. Say, for example, in this question only, you can conclude like the political and ideological causes mattered, but they stemmed from the economic discontent. So that means the economic factors were the main root. From there, the other factors grew. So this is also another way of concluding your answer. Now the third way is a continuity or relevance dimension. Now what does this means? This means you are ending your question or you are ending your answer with a forward looking statement. Say, for example, you can conclude your answer like the focus on economic freedom continued to influence early American policy and global ideas of independence. So like this, you can conclude your answer in various dimensions. So these are the type of dimensions based on which you can conclude your answer. So I hope you understood about this particular step as well. So this was all about the step 5. Now moving on to the last and the final step, which is the most important step also, like the presentation. That means how you are presenting your answer. So because the presentation is of utmost importance, so I would recommend you to use subheadings so that it will be having a clarity. So use subheadings for clarity. Say, for example, when you are writing that this particular answer, you can clearly give subheadings like mercantilist policies and colonial exploitation. You can give another subheading like economic impact on colonial society. You can give another subheadings like the colonial resistance and mobilization. So in this way, you can give multiple subheadings. So it will be in a good presentable manner. Second part is add examples and plus acts to show depth. That means in this particular question, you need to substantiate. That means you need to prove your point. Now, how can you prove your point? Based on examples only, based on evidences. So that's why give examples. So always mention specific acts, dates, events. That's what gets you marks. And the third one is keep paragraphs short. That means your paragraph should not be a lengthier one. It should be short and crisp. So that's how the short paragraphs are. Because why? Because the short paragraphs are easier to read and more impactful for the examiner. So I hope you understood all these 6 steps that you need to follow in each and every answer. But now here comes one thing. I want you to write this answer under the structure we discussed. So all of you who are listening or who are listening to this particular video, they all need to write answer for this thing. In all the 6 steps that we have discussed it now, you need to break down or you need to think the answer or you need to think your question in these 6 steps only. The dimensions in introduction, body and conclusion, everything. Now, once you write the answer, so you can post your version or you can post your answer in the comment section below. No need to worry about perfection. No one is perfect. Okay, so this will be your first answer. So in that case, by practicing only you can write answers like toppers, right? So without practice you cannot write. So that's why, no, don't think about the perfection, just follow the framework or follow the process. That's what it is important. So this is what I want from you all, that you need to write down the answer. That's it, and post it in the comment section before tomorrow's video. Now what we will do in tomorrow's video? Now in tomorrow's video, I will show you the model answer. Like I will write my answer, you all will write your answers, then we will discuss about, or I will show you the model answer in tomorrow's video. Then we will discuss that model answer in detail, and whosoever will be posting their answers, I myself will evaluate your answer. So I request you all to post your answers so that we can evaluate and we can grow together. Now, so this is your chance to get evaluation. So I hope you understood today's video. So let's just recap that what are the things we have discussed for today. So we have discussed the answer structure, or how to think our answer in 6 steps. What are those? Now first step is you need to read the question twice. Second is identify the directive word. Third is find the theme keywords. That this basically will be your anchor for the content, whatever you will write in the question. Fourthly, you need to decode the hidden dimensions. And the most important thing, the structure with multiple dimensions, the step 5. And the last step is present clearly. So this was all about in today's video. So if you found this helpful, I would request you to hit that like button, subscribe for more UPSC content like this. So check your notes one more time, whatever notes that you have prepared, write your answer and post it in the comments. I am genuinely excited to read about what you have written. So see you in the next video. Keep learning, keep growing, and remember that practice makes perfect. See you all tomorrow. Thank you.